Good morning. I'm Stéphane Blecon. I'm leading a workspace edition. I'm based in France, in a city near Milan. From Brest side, there are two persons with me in the room. We have Boris Nicolas, who is responsible of workspace web edition, workspace desktop edition, and managing also the site of Brest, particularly oriented on R&D. And we have also Bruno Bogam leading workspace desktop edition. Then for the hands-on today, the idea I won't speak a lot compared to yesterday. The idea is that to let you to do some exercise to understand what is web integration in Workspace Web, the Service Client API, allowing to have exchanges between web page embedded in Workspace with Workspace to make operation like do a call, change the state, update data in Workspace, or the opposite, to get information from Genesis to put them in a CRM or in a particular other area. And the latest item is about the toolkit. Then yesterday I presented the toolkit. It's a way to instantiate Workspace in a single page application. And what I mean instantiate, in the background it's Workspace, but after you decide which piece that you would like to integrate in your web application, and we have a set of components that will be exposed soon in this component. Like the team communicator, the interaction bar, the global state menu. And the idea for the exercise, the relative exercise, is to implement what I shown yesterday about the integration with Genesis Airlines. It's a fake site of airline company, and to integrate the global state, the interaction bar, and so on. To simplify the code, in fact, this website is just summarized to a single HTML page, and all rendering is based on a screenshot put in the background. And you will see that this will simplify the exercise and limit the amount of code that you will have to read and to inject in this area. But after you will have to instantiate the toolkit, to instantiate different views like global state, team communicator, interaction bar, and see interact with them. For this, what you need, there are a set of prerequisites. Then you need a text editor. In development now we are using Visual Studio Code. It's free, it's from Microsoft, and it's a really good editor. Previously we used Sublime, but Visual Studio Code now sounds one of the better free editor on the place. You need also to install Node.js 8.11.2, and there is a link here. And latest thing to download is an archive containing the GWS simulator. In fact, the idea is not that you will plug your development to a real platform. We like to secure and to simplify the deployment. For this, we are providing to you a simulator of GWS9 with a subset of APIs related to Workspace, allowing to manage the login, to change the state, to make a call, to answer a call, and so on. Different kind of operation, but it's really limited. It's not the full API simulated by this command, but for use cases that we will look in out. In this archive also, with the simulator, you have an instance of Workspace Web. All the UI is located with the toolkit. And in parallel, there is another web server where you will have your web pages that will be embedded in Workspace, or the web page used for Genesis Airlines, allowing to implement the use case around the toolkit. Then this archive is in the tinyurl.com. And this is the priority of Genesis, and please don't share it. And also, most of for the toolkit is still under development. For everything around the web integration and SCAPI, this is official, and the exercise that you will do, the API is already there. But about the toolkit is still under development. When it will be released, potentially you will have some changes in terms of API, but we are closely to address, to finalize this subject. And it won't be a revolution, but some mistakes could be rename or disappear for the person. When you have downloaded this artifact, in fact,
yeah, I'm sure you have corrected already. There is a typo in the text, obviously you must read cannot be used in production.
yes, sorry.
Where's the typo?
The red part.
It doesn't exist
not
anymore.
For production.
Okay. Sorry. Thanks, Rose. When you have downloaded the archive, this zip file, you have just to unzip it in a folder, and you open the terminal to this folder, and you just enter npm install to load all dependencies for the simulator and the web server based on npm. And when it is available on your computer at Shield, then you have just to do npm start in this folder to start the simulator and the HTTP server with just a single command. And if you have to stop to reuse the simulator later, you will have just to enter npm start. This is the command to initiate the subscription. After this, for this course, in fact, there is a local server used for samples, embedding a set of documentation and the courses related to subject addressed to them. And the URL to access to it is on your machine and localhost on the port 8080 and /readme.nt. And start on this.
Tiny URL is giving us an error. It says we're sorry, but my email can't be found in Genesis Lab, my SharePoint.com directory. Please try again later. You're signing in with a different account.
C'est accessible en dehors des employés.
We just need a username and password.
Preferably of the most powerful admin you have. No pressure.
We did a trial, but we tried with a machine from Genesis, and potentially the account was taken into account, even if it was not illegal. And yeah, what I can do is just briefly Louis and Stefan are looking about how to address this, and just to describe a little what you have to do. And I'm going to the download folder. Okay. Then I have downloaded the archive and it. Okay. Now I'm doing the npm install. I have already Node.js installed, and please, before until that we obtain the artifact of the engine.
So that's what we should use. The top one?
So, for the Node.js is
The issue is for the server.
no.
I'm going to use it for
JA, if you replace with EN, you'll get the English version of it.
I got in the first.
Where's the download link?
It's in French.
So you can go to download.
Je suis connecté sur le pied.
Yeah, if the after nodis.org you do /en, you'll get the English version, and then once you get to that page, you'll find download at the top, and you can then download it and install it.
Oh, yeah, it is in a different language.
Yeah. Japanese. In case you
Okay. So let me do that. EN is after.
Where is Zoom now?
Shall I get rid of the JN? Oh, thank you. It is in English.
Okay.
It's in English.
It's not. Yeah.
I know, because I
Okay, I have the URL. Just try if it works fine.
So you have to go director.
Okay. The archive is there. I will simplify it. Okay. And there is a new URL created for you. Because normally no issue with the access. It's a tinyurl.com Y2YG87, yes.
It says your connection is not.
So is that a new one then? Yeah, this is the new one, yes.
So do I want to say yes to this? Your connection is not private. Okay, there's nothing. Should I just go with you? Okay,
Hopefully you don't have any virus. No, I won't see anything.
I'll try it.
It is seen as a virus?
No, it's just telling you that, hey, Google Drive can't scan this for viruses, so if you want to download it anyway, feel free.
Okay. And you have access. Okay, perfect. Everybody has started to download from the archive?
It's a little slow getting there, but
It
works.
Okay. Just then, in my side, I posted the npm install on the download button.
Can you move that a little? I'm still trying to get it.
Okay, yeah, to do the npm install, in fact, where I did it is, in fact, I am in the folder where I have, in the root folder of the archive that I have unzipped. And from this one, I just applied the command npm install to download dependencies. And dependencies that are related to your operating system, because in Node.js, even if it's JavaScript, there are some stuff that are native. Then I cannot share my module from Mac to Windows machine due to some elements that could be in native. Okay, just to be sure that everybody has the right, that this is one that allows to have the archive. Okay. Then now I apply the npm install. I just apply the npm start from the same folder. And in this case, it runs the simulator and the web server. It takes a few seconds to be available. And now on the computer, they are. It's accessible on different ports. The GWS simulator is on the port 777, and the toolkit sample and documentation are on the 8080. What I suggest is to go directly to the MD file from this URL, the readme.md, describing the exercise related to Scapy and
Problem. Show that tiny URL.
Sorry?
Can you show that tiny URL?
Okay.
Ouais. Non, mais il n'y en a pas. Dans le zip, il n'y en a pas. Il en faut un pour que je il veut pas les
So, where exactly do we do the npm install?
npm install in the folder. You open a terminal. You use the cd command to go in the root folder of where you unzip the, and you apply npm install.
I can try. It doesn't work. It's complaining about missing package JSON.
Yeah, so it's giving me an error because it says trying to do some open package.json and the file name is package lock package.
You should rename this file.
So just rename it?
Okay, then we need another. Okay. Sorry for this job.
So if you rename the file, it seems to work.
You rename the file?
Yeah.
Package.log?
Package.log.
Okay, thank you.
No, package.json.
Is that expected?
And then it says it created a locked file as package lock.json. You should commit this file.
Okay. Yeah.
And so something's still not working because I do an npm start after that and it doesn't work.
Please, yes.
It doesn't work?
No.
So I renamed it to package.json because it was causing errors before. And it says it's created package lock, which is what was there before. Now I should commit this file.
And potentially you need to copy paste.
You need to log in on your own.
I will send the package log.
He has internet on here. So he's in front of the page that he wants us to. All of that page has all the logins for school accounts.
Non, il l'a créé. Il n'avait pas, il avait le zip. Non, il n'est pas dans le zip.
Ah, ok, sorry.
C'est pas du marché.
Yeah. And so, sorry for this job. We are creating a new archive with the package JSON that you should put in the root folder.
Ah, le lock il est là parce que il a été créé par NPM.
Okay. What I can do is until this is available, and I'm doing npm start And in any case, even if you don't finish this session during today, then you have downloaded the simulator, and it will work after this session. Then you will be able to continue the exercise. All information are present in your local host. I mean documentation from I created 2 PDF from documentation from Genesis, one official and one unofficial related to the toolkit, and the rest of is present in this article. And the simulator is started, then based on this URL, you have access to this documentation describing the platform. And what you deploy is the GWS simulator at the right and the HTTP server exposing some toolkit samples and SCAPI samples for web integration. You have access to this interface for the simulator to allow the generation of incoming call, to generate incoming call with particular data, to simulate voicemail notifications, and so on. And when it is started, then you can use the following URL to log an agent. Then there are a set of agents that are pre-configured in a particular JSON file, user.json file, present in the simulator. And for example, we have John Smith with the password John Smith that can be used to obtain a session like this from Workspace. Then there is a new archive from Voice. I'm going to create a new URL. And there is it's a new URL that where you will obtain a package.json that will be that should be deployed at the root folder of the previous archive. The file that was not present.
Maybe can on the side of your file directory show me
Yeah.
where it's supposed to
be. Then I'm going to the download folder. Then this is the initial archive. I unzipped this one, and the package JSON is should be put in the root folder of this unpackaged. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry for the session. Okay.
That looks a lot better.
In the package, we just have the sample directory, right?
Sorry?
We just have the samples folder.
You need to add the package JSON to the root folder. Or you run it in your
I don't know why this file was not present in the initial archive.
Your first tiny URL only includes the samples directory.
Yeah, this one is including the simulator, samples, documentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how do we move that directory into Node.js, or how do we do it?
No, you don't have to. Then you have just to download the first archive, unzip it, put it where you want.
Okay.
Download the second archive, take the package of JSON and put it in the initial folder, root folder of this.
And then start Node.js up.
npm install and npm start after to start the simulator and DHCP server.
So it looked like it installed better, and then when I ran the
Les deux fails à la fin. Je pense que le zip d'origine, il doit manquer des choses.
tells me the path first GWS simulator doesn't exist.
Same here.
See the same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
So they put it wherever you install the other, where and then do your npm install. Yes, that's what mine did. You get an error message that says can't find a file path specified.
Okay, and since that the initial archive is corrupt again, there is a lag. The simulator is not part of it. And what I'm doing now, I'm downloading the full package, Voicebot, and provide it.
So scratch everything, start over.
So it's going to start, but you will have only the 8080. You won't have the simulator. You won't have anything to work with.
What you can do is already to look about in what you obtain. In samples folder, you can look about SCAPI pages and toolkit pages to understand different kind of development around those two technologies. Yeah.
Does it have to be that version of Node? Because I'm running version 10.
10. I'm not sure that it will work. Then we will try, but not sure.
Should be backwards compatible, right?
It depends. Some are not. Sometimes it's not full compatibility.
Can you show us the Node JS command?
The tiny URL is not good. In fact, I will provide you another one in 1 minute or 2 minutes. Yeah, because the simulator is not part of it, and I will create one that will be completely. Sorry.
Je vais mettre même endroit de dernier. On va pouvoir mettre.
Okay. This one should be really better. I'll send you guys Slack for this one. On Boris peut sur le dernier ok.
I know this.
This one is a good one. The other one.
Attends, c'est nouveau, c'est celui-là?
C'est pas encore.
Ah, c'est pas encore. I like work for me.
Okay. Well, yes, we are. Then Boris is putting currently the archive in the second tiny URL that you will have to reuse. Just to secure, Boris is now trying to download and apply the npm install plus the npm start to be sure that everything is okay.
This is a new one.
And now
Download.
okay. And so this is a complete reinstall, yes?
Yes.
Delete the folder. Yeah. Whatever we have. Yeah. Wait.
Still missing the package JSON?
No?
So it's,
You don't have it?
yeah, no, it's there.
Okay. Package.json, in fact, it's a file that describes all dependencies that are required for the application. For example, Express for the HTTP path, and so on. Then in the initial arcade there are two mistakes. The package region was not present, and also the code related to the simulator. I don't have the root code, but it was the case.
And then after that one is extracted into folder, we do the npm install and start.
Yes. Then you don't take into account the previous downloads, and you apply npm install, npm start, npm install.
So we still need that.
You gotta read. And when it will be done, you will have access to the local documentation exposed with the HTTP server on the 8080 port. And the documentation is in Markdown, and we are using a third party to transform this in HTML to be presented in your browser. And this is the purpose of the /tour path.
Non, je vais voir. Non. Il démarre pas 80. C'est ce truc-là que je savais, c'est un truc de Sublime Text. Pas Sublime Text, c'est ça? Je pense. Ouais. Sublime Text, il cherche un peu de Sublime Text, c'est normal. Ou alors c'est parce que moi j'ai Sublime Text. C'est l'histoire. C'est 39 mégas. Le Sublime Text, non? Je pense que moi j'ai Sublime Text. Je sais pas pourquoi l'association sur le cérémonies. Parce que quand
Quelle version de Node?
j'ai un CC tout à l'heure.
Parce que moi je l'ai fait hier, j'en sais.
8.2.
C'est en Windows? Ouais.
Ouais. Je vais enlever Sublime Text pour voir si c'est bien.
So I get the same issue with package lock. And so I just installed off of that tiny URL and extracted into Genesis 2. And packaged it.
No, you need to open a terminal. No. You need to open a terminal, CMD. Go to the folder where you deploy
Aussi sur le install.
Node, yes. Not Node, where you deploy the archive.
So This is the latest one that came out of WWI, hands-on zip. The other two were called these.
This folder. And the npm install. Space install. npm. npm. Amazon. N.
Oh.
Node. Install. Enter. Then did you install Node.js when you download it? Then did you execute the install to? Okay. Then you need to put. Okay. Then you install by this way. But actually, you need to add this in the path. Set path equal percent path yeah. Yeah, when you are using a node, then you are referencing, for example, a set of sort party, for example, 10. But behind those sort party, you have also 10 sort party. Then at final, you have potentially 1,000 sort party to run. You have a lot of dependency. And the developers are using for just a small step another third party, for example, to sort with a particular way. And we use the third party instead to implement by myself. It's a good way, but a bit better.
Alright, good, thanks.
I didn't like this last. Because you didn't put it in. Yeah, because you're referring to that. Maybe you say that. And then cut that whole thing out, and then add semicolon. Cool.
Ça a démarré chez moi. Je pense que Stéphane il a un peu une confusion.
Ouais, j'ai fait sur mon Mac.
C'est une deuxième il faut attendre un petit peu sur les stations.
Tu veux dire, ouais. Download des packages, donc.
Non, c'est pas
L'extraction du zip.
Ouais, mais toi tu faisais.
Non, je suis. Donc en fait, le npm install, il fait aussi l'install du simulateur.
Il installe tout.
Ouais.
Quand tu fais npm start, tu fais les deux.
C'est beaucoup mieux. Beaucoup mieux.
Et en fait, tu auras juste un alors ce qui prend ce qui
Ouais, je te connais.
Et si tu vas sur 77, dans le revue, il y a un
puis on fait ici. Bon, ok. Donc là, il faut se lever.
Et après, ici, donc, ça c'est les sessions de travail, mais les sessions de parage. Et puis ça, c'est des liens pour démarrer en space.
Ok.
Yeah, you gotta go into
Could you show your folder?
on your start program, as soon as you install this row,
you go in the
run the command prompt, and then type change directory to see where that's There is both. Yes, and you can do it.
Who has an issue with npm install? You are done with it. Then you download the archive, you unzip it, and you go with the terminal to the root folder of this, where you package the file, and you do the version of the command npm install, and yeah.
Right. So, that's the right one. That's the one I chose right there. But there's looking for the triple one. And then assign back to
Là,
t'as un peu de management de déclaration pour rendre la page tu vas là, tu peux créer le site.
ou alors ça c'est peut-être pas quelque chose de
Si, elle est derrière.
Ah oui.
I just go on
Ça va rien faire derrière. L'idée c'est que tu peux. En fait, l'idée c'est que
Tu les intègres directement dans celle-ci, enfin dans...
il y a une autre page que tu n'as pas ouverte. Ici, là, ça c'est. C'est important pour donc là, c'est les
il y a les lags déployés.
c'est derrière cette
Tu actives les zones.
why is there not access?
Ça, c'est vraiment pas le même. C'est pas Ah oui?
Pour l'instant, non.
And just to explain you a little how works the simulator, potentially you will be faced with some trouble. In fact, in the documentation, I mentioned that to open the workspace session after the to open the UI related to the Jira simulator. And if you are doing this, in fact, what will occur if, for example, I request from the simulator the display of workspace, and I'm going on the port 7777 where workspace is deployed, and I'm logging John Smith. This is the username, and the password also is John Smith. Yeah, that's okay. Now your workspace is present. Nice. And you would like to test?
No.
Sorry.
All lowercase or camel case?
G,
Capital case.
G and S are
Capital.
in capital.
Okay.
Yeah. And now I'm logging in on workspace. And if you would like to simulate an inbound call, then you are going to the simulator. For the moment, there is no real time in the simulator. Then to obtain the session, because operation like new inbound call are related to a session. The session is mentioned here. For the moment, it's workspace. It's more an action. It's not a session. It's an action to open a workspace. And John Smith is not part of this. And what you need to do is to refresh. And in this case, John Smith appears. And then you can press new inbound call to generate this inbound call. Then the call has been created. For example, then if you need to do some operation related to the call, also you will have to click on the refresh button, and by this way you have the call appearing in this select box. You can have several. There are several. And after you can play, for example, with data. And the contrast with the simulator is the UI for the simulator has no real time. Then you need to do some refresh to be aligned with what it is in Workspace. Small constraint, but this is the current constraint. We will have to look to how to improve.
In chat, can you send messages?
No, for the moment, no. We focus on really on voice, and the chat we actually just to expose that basic chat, one chat. For the moment, it will be, but for the moment. But you have the source. If you would like to simulate, you can extend the simulator because it's not minified. The code is like open source and can be. The idea is, for example, if you have an advanced use case and you would like to be in this situation, you update the code of the simulator to make a particular flow. It could be useful in some particular cases.
Hi everyone, welcome, and we are so glad we have you here. So today we are going to talk about, there are many things that we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about Designer, the tool through which you build your application flows on PureEngage Cloud. And then we're going to hand over to Kimnan, who's going to talk about a very specific use case which you can build with Designer. So, that's quick introductions. Yeah.
Yeah, quick introduction. I'm Adam Distrat. I'm an SC as an overlay with PureEngage Cloud. I have a big, large background with IRD, Composer, legacy technology. And I started with PureEngage Cloud and Designer in 2014. So I've been working from it from pretty much the beginning, and I've helped a lot of companies architect and transition to PureEngage Cloud, and just get familiar with the tool in general to take self-ownership of the tool.
And my name is Gayatri Bhattacharjee. So I can't say his last name and he can't say mine. So we do our introductions, ourselves.
Adam and Gayatri.
Yeah. So I'm the product manager for Designer. Designer, as he mentioned, is available on PureEngage Cloud. And we want to showcase it to you at a very high level so that it gets you interested. You go back and come back to us and talk about how you can start using Designer.
Before you get started, are you guys familiar with, anyone familiar with Designer? Show of hands. Anyone using it right now? A little bit? A little bit. You guys, and familiar maybe with Composer, IRD, that everyone good on that side? Okay, cool. So with that good information, we can get started. Designer would be accessible for, as you move over to our portal, you're going to have it just as an icon here that you're going to be able to log into. And what you guys need to know is that the core functionality of Designer sits on top of all the technology that you're already familiar with, URS, ORS, everything Designer is. It's really our Genesis 2020 version of it with a web UI interface. So everything that you're familiar with doing in terms of IRD and your routing strategies with your S data calls and everything that you want to work with, everything is still here. So with that core understanding, it's how does it look and feel, because the core technology is still right there. So let's take a look at one of the applications here. Before I do that, I want to just make a comment here. When we added an application, Designer, I can put in a new app name. Great. When I do this, it gives me an option here. I can set it to a channel, right? I could set it to a digital channel. Let me do that one more time. So right here, I didn't select this, but I can set in a digital channel, which could be chat, email. It could be our social media endpoint that we want to create, so we can kick off our interaction. So if we think about that, right here within the platform, Designer becomes our true omni-channel for developers. And the look and the strength behind that is the look and feel for it is the same. So I have an application here that I just created. We're going to take a look at one. If I were to create a callback application, it's still here, hosted within Designer. So there's no more jumping around to one tool to maybe do IVR, one tool to run over to do your routing strategies. It's all here. And with that, we'll kind of take a look at it.
Yeah, and Aaron, if you could just open that, I think it's already open in another window, that's what it's saying.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you see, this is the app that Adam is going to go through with you guys. As you mentioned, you could create a digital app, but the other part of it is if you could just create a default app and you could say that I want to enable both voice and digital in the same app. So it becomes a true omni-channel app where you build just once, but you publish to the channels that you want to publish.
Yep. So then you would identify, coming in on the channel to that. So to Gayatri's point here, if I were to take this application here and it comes in, we can load in our inbound numbers to it. Right here I would be able to select some. If we have some, I could assign this number to it. And of course I could have an endpoint here. I've enabled here that I can define an endpoint that I want to kick off my interaction. So we can build one and then say, hey, based on this condition that's coming in from the inbound number, we can handle it one way, and then also, so we're building it once, really to get Andrew's point on that. Since we have a smaller room too, you guys don't don't hesitate to ask any questions. And I know I already have this open here. So let's get into this. Just at the high overview, right here we have 4 sections of Designer, and initialize is our SEXML, so it's running our routing engine. Self-service is what you guys know as our VXML running on our MCPs. So all of your self-service applications run in self-service right there. Assistant service and finalize also run on ORS running our SEXML code. So if you think about it, we got a wrapper up front that we can do stat lookups in. Maybe you want to check to see what the total count in the queue is, how many agents are available, and right off the bat you have the opportunity to offer a unique experience. Self-service, you guys building out those IVRs, chat applications, whatever you want to put into place with it. This is where we make use of our self-service bots, where we tie them into voice bots, chat bots. We can go ahead and we'll take a look at a few of those. And then of course, by the time we get down here, assistant services, a lot of you guys would work with it today would be IRD. The cool thing is you guys can kind of see is everything's one here, right? It's just, it starts here, and now you can have a developer take an application end to end with a lot more confidence. Where in the past, you were trying to maybe build out a key and pass it over to routing. That's you can still do it that way, but here it's more of a one tool, one starting point, one end point for you guys to get to. By the time you make it down to the route call block where we deliver the interaction, that block is really router. As you guys know, with all your URS logs, so you can hold over time and look at. And on this platform, we'll take a look at it too. There's no more pulling logs. That goes away. So that's a really powerful component of it too. You guys will enjoy that, and your team members will as well. So right off the bat, what we have here is we have these business controls. And in here, they defined one here as business hours. If I were to just open this in a new tab, this is where Designer can serve both as, it serves as the developer's instance, their development environment. This is also where the business users can come into and they can manage that user experience. And they really do it through this one tab of business control right here. So role-based access is applied here. So you can come into this environment as only a business user. You can't touch the applications. Question that comes up right away. And let's take a look here. I think I opened it in a new tab. Yep. So right here, we have a couple of IVRs. So if the end user were to come in here, the business user, they can on the fly go ahead and change these hours as needed. If they need to close them for any reason, set them. You can also, control all of your lines of business. You can partition this out, so you could just have your sales line of business running all of your hours, and you could have someone who can only see sales in Designer. So they never have the opportunity to step on anyone else's toes. And that kind of goes for the developers too. They can work in this instance where they can't touch production, right? So you can work in confidence in this environment with that. You guys have any questions so far just on that?
Yeah, so we have taken this concept of abstracting out business controls from the development aspect of it. So you have these separated out through roles, and you also have APIs so that somebody could just trigger them through an API and change things. So anybody who wants to change the business hours does not need to go and edit the main application. They just go ahead and change the business hours.
Yep. And back in here, so this, again, it's running, this would be in our routing engine and initialize. You don't have to use this section. A lot of our applications don't consume it. You don't need to use it. But self-service is where a lot of your IVR developers are going to work out of. And in here, you know, what we put in place here would just be your standard stuff. I could add a menu. I could, you know, be doing lookups, my RESTful API calls. Designer makes use. I think we have a pretty good, did we put one in here? What we have, I can grab one. We have a RESTful API block. We can take a look at this really quick. This works obviously both assisted or self-service. So again, the XML code, that's the XML code in the other areas. But here, what it has built into it to help you guys know this, managing the development teams. One of the long poles in the tent is opt-in wiring up your APIs. What this has built into it is really like Postman or curl. So you can get back your response right away from it and find out if you're getting a 200 or you're getting a 400. It brings back the body, the headers, and everything that you can see. So it saves, right off the bat, you can probably see that Designer is pretty quick. You can just drag and drop, and you're building everything in ECMAScript, JavaScript. If you have to do some coding. We have, where you would do that is you would take an assign block right here, and we would, you could assign your variables that you got back from your response object. And if you ever need to iterate through an object, you would go ahead here and define that, and you can write your own little ECMAScript for that object that you need to go through. The cool thing about this is, think about it like you can take more of a junior developer and start taking them through this, where it's plug and play, and they can take just ECMAScript, JavaScript, and start to transition and build out all of your applications for you. And they get familiar with the tool, and then there's the confidence building of they can take it into your chat applications. They can come in and do those email applications for you. So, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. So we have a simple use case that we have shown here. If you don't mind adding the images.
You bet.
Yeah, So if you see here, this is called a palette from which you actually pull in the functionality that you want. And these are the phases, like Adam mentioned, you have an initialize phase where you basically mostly take care of variables. You probably want to set some high-level rules around business hours, right? Like, for example, I use the business hours law. And I said, if you call me outside of business hours, I'm just not going to take that long. That's not a great way to do it. You should have something more complicated, but this is just to illustrate that you can do it this way. There's business hours blocks, allows you to do stuff. Then that's initialize, and then you move on to self-service. So in self-service, all this palette has a lot of blocks which implement algorithms, which let you go through it. There are logical constructs, ifs, elses, bends, go-tos, which essentially help you write code for the workflow. So maybe do you want to quickly go through this? We talk about the bots.
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
So I'll just describe the use case that we implemented here. It's a very simple one, which we've also used with the Build Your Own Bot workshop. It's about, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Ghostbusters, but it's a simple use case that somebody has spotted a ghost in their neighborhood, so they call in to the Ghostbusters call center. And the person who was manning the phones is extremely tired because as they're popular, they're getting a lot of calls. So what they did was just introduced a bot who could do the booking for the Ghostbusters automatically. And if there is a problem in the way that booking is, it's more complicated or the NLU is not able to understand what's being asked for, then you can escalate to assisted service. And all of that is done here in this application. It's as simple as that.
So real quick, I'm going to move into that. You guys are familiar with subroutines. Here in Designer, just to call it out quickly, I'm not going to get into it, but we have the same concept. It would be shared modules, so reusable code, build it once, deploy it, one time. So this, in a sense, is a self-service bot that we're going to take a look at. I could have just built it as a shared module and then redeployed it to the applications that I wanted it to consume this bot application. But yeah, to the point here, let's take a look at the bot. Right off the bat, in here you guys can see, I'm going to go over this with you. Right now on the platform, we make use of Google Dialogflow, the engines for the providers. We have our own dialogue engine, and we have Amazon Lex. Now, Microsoft's coming on the platform as well, and this list is only going to grow. Think of it like we don't care. We're agnostic on it. We don't care which platform you like to build your bots in. What you're going to do is you're going to come over and you're going to register your bots. So I think I had it open. Hold down. I'll just open it here. So these would be the three, and then if I were to select one, as we take a look here, I have as my connection is set up in the environment, you're going to have access to whatever bots, let's say you wanted to choose. If you choose to use our dialogue engine, they're going to appear for you. And then take a look here at the registry. It loads up.
So it's super easy, and Designer is going to orchestrate the bot workflow right into your contacts.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything about that.
So here would be here's an example. So this DF test, this was written with Google Dialogflow, and what we do is we just register it here. So you can have your developer take the bot, build it, register it here, and then you can see over in the application side of it, I can start to make use of it. Now, I'm not going to use that one, but we had a bot for Ghostbusters, I think, down. This one over too. And so when you're in that application, think of it like a black box where API call, you're going to have your intents captured by the time you leave that bot, hopefully, and you're going to pass those over here. So what you're really doing is taking those intents and putting them as local variables here, so they become part of the system of engagement for the routing engine, and then you can make your logical decisions based off of that. So we'd have a local variable here for date.
Yeah, so for the Ghostbusters bot, the first thing you want to capture is what is the intent? Are they trying to book a Ghostbusters appointment, or do they just want to interview them because they're celebrities? We just configure two intents. The other thing that you want to look at is if they do want to book an appointment, which city are they calling from? What time did they call in? What kind of ghost are they reporting? So, those are tokens or slots which are filled, and then at the same time the bot gives you the intent, which you can just, as Adam mentioned, push it into local variables in Discord.
Yep. So that would be how we register a bot, how we consume it, right? We just think of it that way as we're taking it through. The other concepts that you guys are probably very familiar with are attaching data to the threads of the interactions. Though that's still done here. We have this call it attached data, this context data. Right here we can put in our KDPs that you guys are familiar with. So if you need specific information reported back to historical reporting, we still attach data to the threads of interactions. All that lives here, and then by the end of it, we end up getting down here with our skills-based routing engine. That's what PureEngage Cloud really has. Again, it has Genesis, core technology, skills, the skills routing engine that you're familiar with working with, and all the functionality that comes with it. So if I were to take a look at it, you'd have a multi-skill expression, route to a virtual agent group. So some of the options that I had for routing, I can come in to go to skill expression, an agent group, agent routing to a direct agent, to another application on the platform I can point into, and I can force route for voice only. So there's a lot of built-in functionality right from the beginning of it. And again, what you guys knew as router before is really just this one block in Designer. It's really simplified, and it's really there to capture those parameters, pass them into the route call block, and take that interaction to that agent that you wanted to get it to.
I'll just quickly go through it. So here what's happening is, just for context, this is called a milestone block. This is just a comment in a code. Think of it as a code comment, but the added part of it is, the fun of it is, it will show up in your reports. So we have, do you want to talk about analytics briefly, and then we'll come back?
It really helps out. It's helped a lot of our organizations with self-containment reporting in GDP. So we use milestones, we put them where we need to for containment reporting. And then, of course, any unique place that we make it to the IVR, we can set that.
You can think of it as, if I were to use debugging language, it's not exactly a debugger, it's more like data, but you can think of it as a breakpoint, right? So you put in a breakpoint, and then when you look at you make some calls, and when you look at the actual data, you see how many calls came to that breakpoint. So it's kind of, or maybe an assert statement or a printf in your testing code. Think of it as that way. So that's what the milestone serves as.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This would be each instance that you have with PureEngage Cloud. You're going to have designer analytics. It's really Elasticsearch, Kibana put together, and it gives you a cool, powerful view for the developers. So you're going to have a dashboard display, so you can have some information. You can set these up as wallboards. So these come out of the box. Any variable that you want to capture and report on, you can do that. We have some customers that are doing some pretty cool things where they need to offer like a visual IVR. And when they have that opportunity, they're distracting it by, was this called landline? Or was it by cell phone? And if it is internally in the application, they're offering that visual IVR opportunity. But here they want to see those total number of calls. And then they can break it down by country. They can do all sorts of stuff. So you can drill into each one of these. And then you can also, let's see, you can filter on specific applications. And this gets back to that point that I made at the beginning. The time and the effort that your organizations are spending on individuals pulling logs, that goes away on the platform. So I can filter on any one of the applications here. I can just take this one. And how it broke down, and I can just get the entire session detail record. And this is a combination of that SIP log, that ORS log, URS, everything that you needed. All the web logs for Apache, anything that you were using here are captured in these session details.
Pretty detailed, and your milestones will be there as well.
So if I were to open one of these up, I can start to see it's got everything in it. It's got the name of the application, what type of category it was, the session type, the unique ID. Some of the cool things that we use quite a bit to help debug is they have this block path right here. This block path is block by block where you went in the application. So it's going to help you troubleshoot everything that you need to do. It captures all of our external RESTful calls. Anything that you guys see in here that has call data dot, that becomes part of attached data, as you know, as your KVPs. So you don't have to have everything going to historical recording. But if you wanted to know what is going to historical recording, you can do that because you have it right here and call data dot to identify it. All of your local variables that you create, they're down here. They'll come into the session detail record as variables dot. So these would be the local variables that would be in the application for this. So time zone, we have some built-in system ones that you guys are probably familiar with, but anything that the developer added to the application will be here. So very powerful, and again, it's got everything in here. If you start using grammars, it has the utterance, it has a confidence score, it has everything that you want to measure on, and you can get information on. So any of the stuff that you saw up here at the top, if I scroll to the top of the session detail record, bear with me, I had some categories here at the top. If I just wanted to come over here to the left, and see if I find one that I want to add quick. Designer version, for whatever reason I wanted that one. If I come back up to the top, getting used to the match here. Just any variable, so you could just run this quickly. You don't have to extend these every time. You could just have one specific variable your team members could be looking at and they can work through, load it. They show up immediately after the call terminates. So they're available right after that. Out of the box, we offer analytics 90 days and we can negotiate with you on that as well. Always know that there's a view of historical reporting, right? Everything still made it to historical reporting. This is just that powerful view. Really, if you want to use some great wallboards and then you want to take in for the developers to help them keep the environment going, running their testing with the applications, the QA team members are going to find a lot of value out of it too. You guys have any questions on analytics? Yeah.
I've used block path many a time. Did you show how to see what the block path ID is on the application?
Yeah, so I did show it, but I called it out real quick. I don't know. If I didn't, let's do it. Let's look at it together. So the block path here, it calls it out block by block. And I know the name of this application, right? So if I'm in here, I can see it was called GBank Expert. So if I came back over here, let me come back out to the tab. and just open that up, and I can do a sync one-to-one of that actual name, that string name that you want to give it. And then you can go block by block and see it. So it's tied to that directly. And I know it's saved. It's a huge help for our developers to say, where am I dying? Where's my RESTful API? What am I hitting? You know, why am I timing out? What's that? Yeah, it's powerful in that regard. So I'll show that. Anything else around analytics?
Question.
Yeah.
The milestones, can we do reports against the milestones?
Yeah.
Not only in the designer analytics, but also in the reporting.
Yes.
Yes.
And you have a great resource here because not only does she run Designer, she's also the product manager for GCXI.
Yeah, Jim, yeah. Adam is putting me in the spot. But yes, you know, that's, so right now, the number of reports that you have through GCXI and Jim is limited. But we are adding more and more. So in Q3 and Q4, you will see more come in. We already have that pipeline, you know, designer data going into Jim and GCXI. But you know, that is something that will keep evolving with as designer keeps evolving with more and more. So yes, the answer is yes.
And I'll show
reporting on the milestones. This is how many times we hit that point.
Yeah, it's where you make it. And so you don't have to put them everywhere. You use them more like sparingly. What's important to the business users? What do they want to report out to?
Our use case, for example, will be some announcement which will encourage the customers to use the web channel, and then just a matter of how many can drop the line and how many.
I'll tell you though that we've done that exact same thing. They go through the blocks so fast. It's milliseconds. So, but you would have to like extend silence beyond the message to allow them to drop during that milestone. But there is you can't match the disposition to that.
And I do want to point out, well, real quick, I'm going to show this. The external requests, right, the APIs that were made out here, take a look at this. Like you can see, right, with confidence that I got a 200 response code right here. It's successful for the API that I'm talking to. So, you know, the whole time of having to go out and pull logs for just your web endpoints is gone. It's, again, part of the entire session detail record. And then right at the top of this, I wanted to kind of go, we have, you know, in terms of containment, you guys can see that these calls, we have the final disposition, we have some other information in here as well, but if the call doesn't, we can see that we routed to an agent, we got revoked, abandoned in queue. So if you want a high overview, we're already doing a lot of containment reporting to give you that. It can become more granular as you need to with milestones and other items that you want to put into the applications.
The job task seems really interesting for debugging. And do you plan to have something more graphical, like code flow? Or
yeah, good question. So
yeah.
we do. Let's go back over here to the application. We get that a lot because, you know, the technical team will have to take an application, but they're familiar with more of a Visio call flow look and feel. Each one of these applications has a view right here. So if I were to open this, it gives a summary view, and this can you can kind of take this back to the team that you're working with, and to them, that's their comfort zone, right? They're going to be able to look at it and say, yep, no, I wanted to do this. And in the meantime, you know, in Designer, it's right here. So it renders out as you build. You can kind of walk through and go through all the sections and then that you built out, end of service, self-service, all the menus that you want to put in. So it's something you can print out and take to them.
Yeah, you can brainstorm on this as a customer experience design team. So you can use that.
Is this in Designer now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually, I believe, 9. It might even be 8.5.
No, I just want to let people know because many are on their transition list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we are showing you Designer 9, yes.
Yeah, we are.
So.
Yeah, so I think we talked about the basic features. There's one more thing.
There's a question.
So, with respect to the API integrations, we're talking about the RESTful APIs, right?
Yeah.
So, if we have some other APIs other than REST APIs,
we can support them. So let's take a look at that quick. Obviously, we can't get everyone to. So if we get a WSDL, you know, SOAP WSDL, we have to be able to support that. What we do is we have.
Well, we support PHP to connect to SOAP, for example.
So what services?
Yes.
So we have what we call a custom service
So,
block.
but you would need to use, what do you, yeah, we need you to use PHP to create.
Yeah, we massage it back to a JSON. At the end of this, by the time it comes back to our environment, we want it as a JSON object. So we're going to take your whistle, massage it with PHP, and bring it back to the application. But we did that with this custom block, custom service block. And so we have that flexibility to support that, but in terms of speed and time, it's a lot faster for everyone to get stuff deployed if we're on par using RESTful APIs together.
Yeah,
but it's not always possible, right? Like some stuff we just can't get converted over, so we have to be able to support non-RESTful calls.
Yeah, and as over the next quarter or so, you will also see some inbuilt integrations, for example, CRM systems with Salesforce and stuff like that. We will have out-of-box connectors, depending on, so we have that.
So when is it planned for?
It's currently in more like end of Q3 or early Q4, but that's something that's also going to roll out. So two things that will really help you out a lot is one is, like you mentioned, shared modules. We call them micro apps when we build them. So we build, for example, you want to do a credit card payment, and there is an industry standard to make that happen. Or you want to find out business hours of a store. That's an industry standard application. So we built them for you. You just pull them into your application and reuse them. So that's micro apps, right? And you can do it also, but when you build it, it's like a developer library. So that's shared module, right? Shared module is a micro app, and we build it for you and make it usable. And the other thing is what I just mentioned, these inbuilt integrations. These are two things that you will see evolving much more over the next quarters. And yes, these are things which we will keep building to give you that value of using Designer, because the value is not just in having a nice application to that is very standard. The value is in these things which helps you speed up your process.
Yeah. To add to that, we have, I think we have 55 published official cases that are pre-built applications that kind of give you that 80-20 rule. You see the platform, you're like, hey, it's great, but how do I get to it? And so what we have is pre-built applications. Like, you don't have to build callback. If you build callback before on-premise, then I'm sure you spent a lot of time and money on it. Here, it's already built. We have that for inbound routing. It's that 80-20 rule. We're going to, nothing, your business is unique to your needs, but we have something right out of the box that we can start with. And this is how we start to help you migrate onto PureEngage Cloud as we work with it. So callback here, it's already pre-built, and then in the application, from this standpoint over here, by the time I get down to it, I come down to the palette here, it's going to reference those pre-built applications, but in an assisted service space, maybe I do a stat server lookup, I can take that, offer a callback, but here I'm really, I just need to know what queue am I going to pass it into. So it becomes, whatever queue that we've updated throughout the call flow, we're going to pass it into. But the cool thing is, hey, these are pre-built. Very different mindset for Genesis to say, instead of saying, here's a whiteboard, you can do anything. We're here, now we have a road. We'd like you to stay on this, but venture out if you need to. You can still do anything that you need to. We still have all that flexibility. But now we have a roadmap to help you kind of go forward with the deployments.
We have integration for the callback. Speaking some external tool just for verification of the number, which is sent out by the customer.
We do. It's built into it. Yeah, we absolutely do. So if you couldn't call in and book a callback twice, right? The system would recognize that you already had a callback waiting in queue, that you already had one scheduled for that in there.
No, what I meant was you're calling from some number, but obviously you are not presenting the number on which you want to receive the call.
Yeah, it updated.
Then you're entering some number. And is there a way to verify and check that number is existing with external applications? That the number is correct, this type?
Yeah. It is. We do verification checks on that. And for the countries that you're in, it's going to identify if you have the right, prefix for the country that you're calling from. All that's built into the tool. It's very close to virtual hold, and you have to re-enter. You don't want to be called back on the number that you're calling from, and then the verification checks that are in the background for it.
And how do you handle international callback requests? I mean, the customers can call in from US, from Europe, from Asia Pac region, then the number of format is different. Sometimes if you're in US, you don't receive the plus signs.
Yep.
Examples like Singapore, they have only a few digits, including the country code, and they can overlap with the US number.
Yeah, we have some pretty cool technology that we're integrated with APIs that help us identify that, right? So where you're calling in from, we can identify how we have to dial that out on the platform. So we have stuff in place that helps us quickly identify that with accuracy, so you do get your callback. Supporting global, that's the other thing, right? PureEngage Cloud, we have to support global customers. That's what we're doing. So if we have callbacks in Japan, great. If you have callbacks in Germany, over in the States, it doesn't matter. We're going to be able to work with that. The time zones, when we offer a callback is much different in Germany than when we're going to in Spain, right? Yes. So we have to be able to do that and support that seamlessly, right? And the product's already been through that. We're doing that live right now with customers using it. And the same for web callback too, right? It's the experience you want to capture from the web that you want to bring in. That becomes another channel, but you're still able to say, hey, the website's hours coming from this website. Here we are. We're gathering that information. And based on the hours that you define, we offer the callback or we don't, right?
Yeah, but this is assuming that you have numbers in each country. If you are collecting all of the calls in US, but the customers are calling from all over the world, then how are you verifying the number that it is not from Bay Area, 65 something, instead of Singapore, which is the country code is starting.
Yeah. I can probably chat with you a little bit on that one. A little bit. I can go over a couple of use cases we have with we have Nike who's doing something similar with that, but not to get too far off and keep this moving.
Those are handled as part of the core callback service as well. But these are basically functionalities that are available in it, which I'm exposed to. Yeah, so Adam can talk.
Yep, very familiar with that.
So we don't have much time.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Can you show some business hour we can use for the IBM turn? For callback, is it the same business hour you use? Because on premise currently it's different configuration.
It can be one. It can be the same or it can be different. So you could offer callback business hours for a line of business unique, and at the same time offer hours for your main inbound hours that you want to have open for operations. So you have flexibility with callback. You can have that in there.
So there is a separate application type called callback. You might have seen when he was creating it, because callback has a lot of intricacies, and it's hard to, as an application developer, you would probably find it extremely hard to build in callback within this particular situation. So with that application, you have a lot of control on configuration, and you can also configure it in a way that is easier for you to manage.
Yeah, you could even have your hours tied to a queue that are different from the other queues in that IVR, right? So you can get granular with it, and we help customers with that too. So it can be one-to-one. It can be very different. It can be down to the queue level. What do you want to provide for them?
Yeah. So here you have a block, but if you are getting too fancy, then we have a high-level object, which is a callback application. So I just want to quickly talk to them about how do you deploy, and that's pretty much the last part. I think we've taken a lot of time already. So this flow, Designer, it's on the cloud, right? You are not deploying anything. We are doing it all for you. So your minimum expectation is give us dev environment, a QA environment, a UAT, and then the live environment. That's a very reasonable expectation to have from us because we are doing everything for you. So Designer does do that as expected. And you have a completely baked out continuous integration pipeline, right? So that you can build your applications and move it through all these, So here, Adam changed a few things. So I'm just going to talk through that. So what you do is you save the flow. Right? Do they have errors in the application? Maybe you want to delete the customer service quickly because you did not configure it completely.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Let's take it as an opportunity to. You can't just save an application. It's got validation checks in for you. So I didn't configure callback, so it's not going to like that. Okay. And
Some custom service.
it's not gonna like that I didn't wire up my custom service, and I don't know if I had anything else that would tell me to. So now I get the validation checks removed, right? So I'd have to define, those blocks. Otherwise, it's going to tell you, hey, you can't say that. So it's going to give you upfront validation.
So this is more like, checking in your application code with a combined step probably. The next step you do is you publish it, which makes it runnable, right? So let's publish. And you have validations during publish too, depending on what.
Yeah, publish does the same, it's just that it makes it runnable. It actually pushes the code out to the server.
And then, what you would want to do is, let's say you have built an application, you have saved it, everything's fine, now you want to test it out. So what you want to do is, you want to build it, right? It's more like tagging your executable, right? So let's call it my first build, right? You can put in a note, and let's just build it. So it's given it so build one will be distributed by that one. It's just an internal number. What it has done is it has made a build for your application and tagged it. So your executable is now tagged to the name that you put in, right? And then let's go here. So notice one thing: if you click on the application name, it opens it up. But if you click anywhere else, like here or maybe here, what it shows is the CI pipeline for the application. So if you see here, you have dev, QA, UAT, live. If you're not crazy about UAT, you can just disable it. That's entirely up to you. Here, so let's say you want to first test it out in dev. So your build is right here. You can select it, right? And this means that your build has been deployed onto the dev environment. When you are tested it all, you're happy, you can just go right here.
One thing too, this latest publish right here, maybe you have a developer who doesn't want it to put that. Every time you publish it, it'll just automatically pick it up too if you keep it on your dev environment that way. Yeah. So for speed, you could do it that way, and then you can move your solid builds through the life cycle, right? So it starts to help you do that built into it. And then by the time you get to production, your notes are fully filled out. You can work through the sprint life cycle. Maybe you guys take up an agile methodology with us to help everything kind of run through your defined sprints. You can call them out per build. Question I've had in the past is, you saw it was incremented as build 1.1. Does that auto increment for you? It does. It doesn't go back. And these builds are immutable, so you don't have to worry about.
Yeah. So if you want to look at all your builds here, they'll be listed here. Yeah. You can even open and see what was there in the
Which one did you click on to view the previous builds?
How did you pop this window?
So just say manage builds.
Manage builds.
What is the difference between all those environments? I mean, is it backend infrastructure?
Yeah, you can think of it as backend infrastructure.
But it is the same infrastructure.
Yeah, but the real difference is here, right? So phone numbers, when you assign a phone number, right? Or you assign a chat endpoint.
Yeah, so think of it as a logical partition. If you're using like Eclipse or Visual Studio, you would have your environment that you're talking to. That's really what we have going on here, where you're defining it and working your way down and setting it. So you have a logical partition of dev, QA, UAT, and from there you set your builds, and then of course you have your test numbers, your test endpoints that you're working with in form. You don't have to enable all these streams. It might not be the best fit for your organization, but you could.
Yeah.
Most like a fact.
Yes.
That currently we are using in that environment.
Yeah.
We are not ready for QA.
Yes, and the beauty of it is the advantage that you really get from it is these builds move through this pipeline, right? You're not copying things over.
Yeah, think of how much time you guys have probably spent upgrading, just keeping your dev environment in sync, right? Or you've had problems with that, or you want to upgrade your dev environment. You had to upgrade your premise environment, your production environment. Here, it's a logical partition, and you're working your way through these steps. And of course, it gets into that access control, right? We can put granular access on who can see the applications, down to the line of business. Sales developers can only see that, whatever they need to, and then they can work through the promotion of the lifecycle.
In case there is an upgrade process for the software, it will not reflect on the dev environment, but it will reflect also on the live UAT and QA, right? We cannot have different software versions of Genesis.
Yeah, that's the great thing about coming to the cloud is you don't have to worry about that. It's coming out as one. I think it was kind of stressed today too, that it's coming out as one push, right? Global. It's true cloud platform software. It's like getting an update on your phone for a software, and that's where we're kind of looking at cloud rather than individual components that you have to kind of weigh against.
So you are not having to deal with the hassle of where is it now, UAT or dev. You are just concerned about how do I expose it.
And if you have any real concerns with it, we have a great lifecycle build that we release so you're up to date on it. So if you have a component that you're concerned about or you want to do load testing with, maybe you want to use a third party, we'll work with you on that, right?
We give you a completely different
we're
environment.
flexible in that. We understand that you might have something that's unique and we have to stay flexible in that regard.
So we are doing a lot of that. Right now we are migrating customers from 8.5 designer to 9. And the way we do it is we allow them to test out, right? 9. We migrate them to 9. We keep 8.5 as well, and we allow them to test their test cases on 9, what they care for. And yes, that's where we're doing a lot of that as well. But the idea is to make it easy. If you don't want to deal with, where am I? You just take care of the endpoints. And everybody sees the screen, so there is no confusion about which build is where. Right? It's not buried in a document, PPTs, some text file. It's all here.
How you manage the size of the final XXML for ORS?
Yeah.
We know when the XXML is the biggest, ORS.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So when we hit publish, right, we're pushing out our SCXML, the VXML, everything that it takes to run that application, all the JavaScript, ECMAScript files that you have, the grammars, it all gets pushed out when we hit publish. The monitoring of that is being continuously monitored. ORSs, all the components are. So if you get large, we'll start to monitor you and let you know, hey, there's probably an opportunity here that we want to think about design and help you out with that. But it's being done seamlessly in the background. And we have enterprise customers who are, challenged the platform where we've had to scale it really well right from the beginning. So we have not seen very many issues with scaling out the code since maybe like 2014, 2015 in that regard. It's really, there's a whole effort put around, too big is better right from the beginning, right? So you're in a good spot with it. But are we monitoring it? Absolutely. ORS is continuously being monitored, and we're going to notify you if we see anything out of that.
And how you control the persistence? What the block is persisted in Cassandra to switch ORS? How do you control it?
Yeah, so you are asking about cloud ORS architecture. So yes, so on that, we have a few, we looked through a few use cases where we need to save state, right? Because of ORS persisting while it is running, the call is running. And there have been a few alternatives. I think you should probably talk to the ORS PM around that. I mean, I can talk through that, but I don't want to because I'm not the authority on that. But the idea is on the cloud, we want to abstract that away from you. So there is Cassandra, there are other things that we use to do that same use case. And maybe if you want after the session, I can give you the contact with the ORS person if you want to talk about these edge cases that you just mentioned. But we don't want to give any, we monitor our applications just like everybody does on the cloud, but we don't want to throw any errors at you, which you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think maybe the question was because in Composer you can decide if you want to persistent for the whole IPD call flow, or for it was, can we decide where to put some persistence with designer, or is it all managed by?
No, this is all managed behind.
Okay. So.
What was it?
So in Composer, apparently they can decide where to persist. So it's a cloud service, right? So we want to give you the flexibility for the use cases that we want to build with these things. We want to handle it under covers. And I would say, comparing everything that you could do with Composer versus what we can do with Designer is probably not. It's probably not going to yield, the happy results. Composer was extremely customizable because we expected you guys to do everything, right? Designer was born in the cloud and has been a cloud service. So there are certain things which we thought would be better if we abstracted away from you and just make you pay for it.
Yeah, with that said though, anytime we come across that, it's still built on that core technology, right? ORS, URS. So if you ever need anything exposed, we have to support that at the same time. We try to limit that, but is it there? Yeah. Can you still call S data calls, give the information that you need? Absolutely. You're just calling an S data call in that assign block with a method call to it. So I know you had a question back there too, sorry.
Yes, so between the different versions, is there an easy way to see what has changed?
You mean compare a diff?
Something like that.
Yeah, we don't have that right now.
Yeah, you can export these applications, so.
Yeah, you can export them.
And you can do like a diff in your preferred tool.
Okay, but this would be like SAXML or whatever.
Yes, yep.
Yes.
You would have that, and then you can do a diff on it that way, but not in the tool. We don't have a built-in diff in the tool. You bring them out and then do your diff on it.
Second question, if I can. In the previous workshop, when we were building a bot, I wanted to rename one of the variables that I had in the initialization section, and validation obviously failed afterwards. So, do you guys have any support for basic refactoring, like renaming a variable or things like that?
You mean you rename it at one place and then it gets renamed all over?
Yeah, because I declared it in one place for the most part of the time it's not correct. So if I go to that place and change its name, I would expect it to propagate, and it didn't. It was complaining that.
Yeah, so we have a few usability features that we're going to work on in the roadmap. And this being one, right?
Yes,
so
it's been brought up and discussed and going because people expect that today.
So
yeah, right now it's if var name and you switch to var first name, does it propagate? No, it's not right now.
Yeah, not right now, but yeah, these are part of the usability features.
That's in the drop downs, just not in the presets.
Yeah, the local variables that the developer would declare. Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah, but the drop-down list, anything if I change the, it's going to come in there right away.
Yeah, it's just the existing code. If you use something already, then it's not going to be updated.
Yeah. So you kind of have to right now know where you declared or reused it and updated that.
So those are things which we will definitely work on. Those are not things that we want to abstract away from you. So get closer to a real SDK. These are things which we will keep iterating on. Right now we've been trying to make sure that we have all these integrations because a lot of people want social and digital and so right now we've been concentrating on bots and making social happen through the same MV channel app. These usability features will keep coming more frequently over the next quarters.
So here it's we see how you manage the stream and so on, but it's for the cloud-only environment. We went to some workout about hybrid solution using on-premise and Designer.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you manage this if we use Designer but we want to use our on-premise OS?
So right now, I think the way we want to offer, I don't know which session you went in, but right now the idea is to offer digital services with Designer hybrid, right? So you can use digital services on the cloud and have Designer as your application tool, and Designer runs on the cloud. Yeah. So, but to the question that you are asking just Designer. Right? You don't want to use any other service from the cloud except Designer, right? Is that how you're looking at?
Well, it's just that we heard that it is possible, so I'm wondering how it is possible to use Designer to design the.
Yeah, so if you use digital services on the cloud, then we do have a solution to allow a Designer application to be done this way. If you're looking at using just Designer and using the rest of your premise infrastructure, right? That is something which we still have to figure out from an architecture.
And I don't, without digging in too much, but right, by the time we leave self-service, you can attach your subheader information, and then you can pass it over to your route point on your premise application, read that in, and continue on with it that way too. So that would be an option too if it were opened up to you. We have options too for a PaaS model, usually where they want to host their IVR, right? But they want to come into PureEngage Cloud, but they just want to have their IVR because they put in so much effort for that. We can support that as well. But kind of maybe a little bit reverse on it's here. Yeah, you could build them here, and if you wanted to have a key in your routing applications that you host locally, and you attach that as a header information, that's eventually get over there. So we've done that too with other customers. I don't know if that answers your.
Yeah, actually, I was wondering if we were supposed to export some kind of XML and deploy it on our server, or just use an URL in the cloud.
We just use it here to be hosted in the cloud.
Yeah, and we're going to have an easier solution than that, having to export anything specific. We're going to have a solution in which we can actually version your applications which run on ORS and URS and premise, but we're still working on that right now. So you'll see more of that coming up very soon.
Okay, so let's get started. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to create, we're going to allow you to create a task from Salesforce, and then you can see how it will get to Genesis, and then receive it on the agent desktop. Okay, the designer application is pretty much what Gayatri have shown you, except that the one that we have is a very simple one. All we do is just target the task to somebody, because the whole point of this is to just show you how to invoke those API in Salesforce. Okay, so since there's only 3 of you, I'm not sure if you want to just go through it, or you want to if you want to go through it. You can go to login.salesforce.com, and then for username, you can pick 2, 3, and 4. 2 and 4, 2 and 3. Okay, if you're interested. So it's W10 AGT3 at DevCon19.com, and then the password is DevCon19 exclamation mark. So once you logged in, I will be able to show you. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this.
So XX needs to be 2 digits? Huh? 01, 02?
No, it's just 1 digit. 3 or 4. 3, 4, or 5.
So there's only W3. Can I use 10?
Yeah, you can use 10. Sure.
I'm using 4, by the way.
Okay. So 3 and 4. So I was ambitious. I thought there's going to be 50 people in here. So.
Be patient. The questions will be like all 50 people.
There you go. You can make up for it. You get all 50 questions. How's that? So if you log in, then we'll go to I'll go to the next one and show you where you should be. Are you logged in?
I don't think. Yeah, it's not work for me.
Are you at least get the Salesforce.com screen?
Yeah, the page stuff, but this is one password.
DevCon19 exclamation mark?
W10, yeah.
Okay, let me try.
If I try W10 AGT4 DevCon19.
No. W10 AGT1. I mean for you 3. 4.
Yeah, that's what I did.
At DevCon19.com.
Okay, let me try that again. That's what I tried.
Let me check. It should be there. So this is my login. So we're just going to do this since there's only a few of us. We just do it. So let me see. Let me look at all the users that we have, and I'm sure that that's there. So you should have W10. You can choose any of this. So you said you have 4?
Yeah.
Okay. So W10 AGT4 at DevCon19.com. Okay. Are you in? Once you log in, you should be at this page if you logged in. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, password doesn't work.
Really? Let me try real quick.
Just me. Yeah, it's not working for me.
It's not working for you either? that. Okay, so you want 3 and 4, right? Were you able to log in, Stefan?
Yes, I picked up.
Okay, let's try another one. Try 2 and 3. 2 and, let's try 19 and 2. I may have just punched that one. Yeah, 19. And then the other, I'm sorry, your name? Okay, Vic. Okay. Try 17. You know what? Try the one that has the last login column. Any of those. The other one, I probably didn't.
17 works.
17 works. Okay.
19 works.
Okay. All right. So once you logged in, you should just go to setup.
Excuse me, can you repeat the...
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's try for you. Let's try 11. W.
The password?
Yeah, W10 AGT 11, and then the password is DevCon19 exclamation point. AGT 11. Nobody used 11.
With the at DevCon?
Yes, at DevCon19.com.
And password?
Password right there.
Is
Capital DEVCON 19 exclamation. I think they're out of water, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah? Okay.
Is it correct that it's asking for a phone number?
Just say skip it. Just say no, I don't want it. Did you guys get that?
We did.
Yeah, just say skip.
Remind me
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. You don't have to give them. I'm gonna blow this later anyway, so. Okay, so now once that you're in here, let's go to setup. Okay, which is what I'm already in, but if you want to walk into that, you can do that. So what I'm gonna show you is the Apex class that I did. So remember your number, okay? I'm terrible with numbers. I'm not going to remember what your number is, so you need to remember your own number. Okay. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and you know what? I'm going to log out of here. Okay. So I'm not sure. Some of you, are you saying Lightning or are you saying Classic? It doesn't really matter. Okay, so you have Lightning. So with Lightning, you have to click on the gear button up here, right there, and then click on Setup. Okay. And the nice thing about this is that because it is Apex code and trigger codes, it works both for Classic and Lightning. So you don't have to. At first I thought that you have to change, but once I tested, it works with both. Okay, so what you want to do is in the quick find, let's go find our Apex classes. Okay, so the quick way to do it is just to type it in there and it will just bring it up for you. Okay, so right now, and in this interface, it shows here. So in this case, what you want to do is just find your particular number, your AGT number, okay, and then drill into that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do edit, and then you can go all the way to the top. So this is the actual Salesforce Apex code that we wrote to do our Salesforce to do our testing for submitting from Salesforce, basically. The one thing that you don't, well, for this session, the one thing that you should not change is the string URL. Okay, don't change that. And then also so basically that whole top header, HTTP request header right there, don't change. Okay, I have it already set in yours to go to route to the correct agent. So don't make any change on that. So what you can do basically in this case, I'm doing a case. But when you go back to your, go back home, if you want to do an account or if you want to do a lead, you can basically just take this code and, you can take the code and basically change it to do the other objects. So one of the things that of interest to you, if you want to change today, is this section right here for user data. So user data is the genesis, is basically attached data that we have, that you want to add into an interaction, basically. So this is where for example, we have different ones that we have created. And so so some of them are, of course, hard-coded, like the SF level 1, level 2. So you can add more data in here. And if you want to hard-code it, that's fine. It would just get sent over. But the thing that you may want to do is, of course, you may want to take data directly from your objects. So in the case like the custom segment, we use case type, for example. Okay? So you can add any data that you want here, and that data will show up in Genesis. So in this case, if you want to add something like just a hard-coded, value, you can just copy one of those generator.write string field and then just add something. Okay. And so what we're doing is that we are creating a JSON object so that when we submit it, it will be the data, the payload of this task. So for example, even though this looks kind of complicated, it's actually really, once I wrote this code, I just gave it to somebody like Stefan, our tech marketing hero here. We all depend on him for our demo. So he literally took this and he was able to make it very, specific to what we do our demos. But so in our case here, there's a couple of things I wanted to show you here. So in one case where we execute, so this is where we're actually executing the web services call, for example. We created another class we call complete case. So in this case, we so this is basically just the so-called data from the so-called statement query from Salesforce. So here we're actually looking for something that has a subject like work item. So if you want to do an update, when we go to actually create the case, if you want to do something that's specific where they can do the update, then of course you'll have to add that as a value. But that can be anything, right? It can even be empty if you want to. But in our case, because we're doing it for a very specific demo, we want to show it like that. So of course, in this one, we also we add the URL again, okay? And then we also provide, okay, so this URL that I have here is not correct, right? So if I'm going to do, I would need to have this URL basically to do it with. So, but I think for yours, it should be correct because I fixed it last night. So I should have all this. So if you check the URL above and the bottom should be the same.
It's not.
It's not?
No, the complete case has a different URL.
The complete case has a different? Yeah, so it should.
It's genhtcc.com. It doesn't say genesiscloud.com.
Okay, so in that case, then you probably have to
copy paste it.
Yeah, copy and paste up to the interaction area, and then just remove that. So that should be the URL that we use.
So just to give a bit of perspective, so this class has three methods. One is the submitter. It will submit the interaction when you create the case, because it's a trigger on case update or create. The second method is update. So whenever you update the case, it will invoke this method and will ask Genesis to update attached data related to this case. And the third is close. So whenever you close the case, again, it sends a request to update the task. And in this case, we just ask to close the case on interaction. I mean, terminate the interaction on Genesis side. So yeah, the URL needs to be a same base URL as the submit. Submit is correct. Get a double.
So if you want to, then you can
You have double
update
quote.
it.
You have
Huh?
double quote. If you go left, yeah, there's a double quote.
Yeah, so when you cut and paste, you gotta watch that. And you know what? Social's not gonna let you save it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the purpose of that URL. The API key, of course, also need to be the same. So you would have, every time you create a service endpoint, for example, like I have said this morning, if you create one for billing, for example, it will still have the same API key because that's your tenant's API key, but that URL will look different. So we will construct the URL with that particular service name called billing. So you have billing collection or whatever, then that's how it would get generated. So. Okay, so once you're done with that, you can go ahead and do a save. And if you made a mistake, it would not let you save, but but we're, so just in those cases, okay? So now, what I want to show you now is the Apex trigger, okay? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Salesforce, but in Salesforce, for each object that you are working with, for example, like contact or case or campaign. In our example here, we're using case, right? So in this, I created a couple of triggers, okay? One trigger is called case to GTR. So in this trigger, I created with as after insert, okay? I had to create this long switch statement because what I had to do was that because there's many of us here, and if we all going to trigger when we do a create new, then it's going to go crazy, right? And because of that, what I did was this was just for our specific case only, for our specific example only. So whenever you log in, it determines who you are, and then it picks up your own Apex class. Okay, so that way, if you made a change, it's not going to affect him. If I made a change, it's not going to affect any of you guys. Okay, so that's why. So in reality, it's very simple. Is we really only care about this top part right here. Okay, this top part for the trigger, and then right after this, you can just do call the class directly. Okay. So now, if you are ready, you can just go to let's go pick a service, for example. Because that's where you'll be able to see the case up front. And in service, okay, before we pick service, I want to kind of give you an idea of which contact we have that you can, that you will be able to use with the case, right? So you can just remember one of these, Carol or Edward, okay? So in this case, what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and create a case, okay? It's going to ask me to search for.
I don't see any contacts in my contact list.
Go to, there's a drop down, it says recent contacts, go to all contacts. On the left side, okay, I'll show you. So I think it's because I pinned my contact. So go here.
Oh.
Okay. Yours is probably right here, recently viewed, because you didn't view anything, you're not going to find anything. So if you go to all contacts, it will give you the same list that I have. Okay? You have to pay extra for the Salesforce lesson.
Talk to my boss.
Okay, so just remember one of this name. We're going to go ahead, and you're probably not going to see anything either because you probably haven't created any case. So you can go all over. These are all the ones that we made, work today. So anyway, you can do new, And then just put in, I'm going to use Edward, but you can use anybody you want. Okay? Because we picked the contact, it's automatically going to fill in the account for us. Okay? Go ahead and put in the required data, the required filter, and then also case type. Let's use case type because that's one of the data points that we are attaching to the user data. Okay. And in the subject, if you want to, you can just put work item, test, web, for example. If you put the work item in there, and when we go to do the update, it will pick it. Okay. If we don't, then it may not. So anyway, then you can just create that task. Okay. So go ahead. So now my case was created. So now if I log into, unfortunately, we have to be in VPN.
Yeah, so it's only working for Genesis.
Okay. So I just want to check. Okay. So I'm going to show you that it had that it's been routed. Okay. Sorry, should I? So. Go to my portal, log in as my agent desktop, and I'm going to use my. I'm going to go ahead and use my agent. But the way I had it, the way we have it set designer, so all the cases that you created, it still go to my agent. So. Okay, so here I'm not ready. So as soon as I go ready, there we go. So this is tester number 5, question about DevCon. Good. Who created this? Tester number 5. There you go. So here I'm gonna. Should I reject?
Accept.
So here's the ending of the subject that you have put in. So you can see now. I think our capacity, we just have one work item?
One at a time?
Yes, one at a time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we only have one at a time here, so that's why it's here. So essentially, this is how as you can see, it's pretty quickly. It gets into our queue and it's targeted, and it's sitting there waiting for somebody. As soon as I log in and I'm available, it goes to me. So unfortunately, we couldn't give agent desktop to everybody, but if you had it, that's the way that it would work.
What will be the behavior if we have G+ adapter and Salesforce is the main working screen?
So when you have G+ adapter, it's going to be the same. Mm-hmm. But in the context, you have Salesforce, so G+ adapter, it will open. We still open workspace in the adapter, because the adapter is workspace. Mm-hmm. And then it will screen pop. If you set it up properly, you can have it available so in your designer, you may use you may have an attached data field that has the Salesforce record ID. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so as soon as you accept that item, like I did, it will screen pop the case that he just did. So
I created a custom field.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't put it in here, but I think if I turn on, how do I turn on the browser log?
Option Command J.
Option Command J.
Yes. Otherwise, a right click in the screen, right click and do inspect. Inside the border. Right click and do inspect. So two buttons, two fingers in the on the pad.
Sorry. I don't use the thing anymore. Sorry. I'm still pretty challenged on that. Inspect.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at this one. So we can inspect this and we'll see your data, the user data. What did you call it?
Just call it custom field.
There you go. You see that? Right there. Custom field, super awesome. We didn't display it, but essentially if we add it to our to the desktop case data, then it would get displayed to the agent. Yeah. So, and like I said, of course, this is just a fast sample for you guys to see how easy it is to do. Yeah. And how complicated you want to do, that's up to you. But it took me more time to do that switch statement and try to do it than I got this done. So that's all that I have. Any questions?
Oh, so many.
Come on, throw it at me. Let's see if I earn my money today.
I will leave first the rest of the people to ask because probably I'll come with 2 or 3 use cases. I'm looking for your advice how to do other things.
Okay.
That's why I will leave the rest of the people first.
Okay.
Ask if they help.
No? You're pretty good? You're going to go home and build this tomorrow?
Sure. No, Kevin actually works with lots of Salesforce. I figured I'd learn something and maybe it would help.
Okay. Yeah, Kevin does a lot of that.
Kevin's super awesome in Salesforce Lightning and the whole thing.
So, anything from you? Adam, I'm not taking your question.
Yeah.
You already had your fill this year. Thank you. Anything from you? No? Okay, shoot.
He's with me.
Yeah, together, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm available. If you just contact your CSM, then she can make arrangement.
Okay.
So when you guys do start implementing the Salesforce adapter, I can work with you. I can help you with any question that you may have. So.
We'll need you probably in the beginning just for an idea and conception whether this is possible or not.
Yeah, sure.
And then we can step on this, go further, and once we come to the Genesis G-Plus adaptive deployment, to consult with you with technical questions. Currently, what I want to understand is.
So essentially, because I didn't have time to do this, but you essentially, if you use this alone, you can even do what we call the service client API. So you can put the HTTP post, and then it will automatically pop up Salesforce for you too. So it will be 2 separate windows, but when you have the G+ adapter, then it's all inside of Salesforce. So. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. You don't have any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all that I have really. So you guys are pretty much get back your 30 minutes.
So with respect to the G+ adapter installation, that pop-up what we are talking, right? So will it be within the Salesforce page or it is going to be altogether new?
So if we have a Salesforce adapter, I'm just going to do one that is this is an old one that we have, right? It's not the version that you should be on, so. You know what? I kind of give you an idea of what's going on. You can tell how many Salesforce login I have. So basically, when you have when you have Salesforce, this is an old version that I have on here. So, but basically, it will pop. The Salesforce will pop up like this, and the size will be, the size will be based on how you configure it, right? The look will also be different because it will be Workspace Web 9 instead of A5. This is A5, okay? But essentially, how it works is that you can, it will when it gets the accept, it will appear inside of here, okay? And then when you accept, it will screen pop out here.
Okay.
Yes. So it will screen pop the record on the inside of Salesforce, but the pop up to say, test blah 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 that you saw from him, it will basically it will appear inside of the adapter. So because it's a channel that we handle, but when you accept it, of course we pass the screen pop over to Salesforce, and then Salesforce, based on the data that we pass it will determine what match, and then screen pop accordingly. So you get a little bit extra there with the G+.
So yeah, with the current implementation, that pop-out is not working for us. So with G+ installation, that pop-out will work properly, right?
This one?
Yeah, because
Yes.
currently we are not able to update anything once we do a pop-out.
Oh, what version are you? Is this what you're using today?
Not this one, Lightning, Salesforce Lightning with Ingenious.
With who?
With Ingenious.
Oh, you're using Ingenious. Oh, okay. If you're using Ingenious, then I don't know. I'm sorry.
Very confusing here.
Yeah. This is our G+
Ingenious with the
adapter.
Maya, but it will be Genesis.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, this pop-out just worked very recently, though.
Because when we asked this issue with the engineer, they said the fix has to be learned from the
Salesforce.
Salesforce.
Yeah. So this came in very, very recently to us, for us.
Oh, okay.
I think it came probably, like a month ago when I was running some tests for somebody, and it came out. And it shows, and I tried it, and it works. We actually didn't have to do anything because this is an old version of adapter that's here. So we didn't make any code changes. Salesforce just made it work. But I guess the version of Salesforce that you have is coming out. So. But this is I think summer 19. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you haven't gone to summer 19.
Yeah, we haven't. I think last week we went. So
Yeah. So yeah, it seems to work automatically for me. And actually now, after you pop out, you can also resize it accordingly, the way you want. This didn't work when we started Salesforce Lightning implementation back in like late 2017. Yeah. So yeah, we had our Lightning adapter since mid 2017. And now, of course, here in our cloud, and we'll have the Lightning version by probably the third quarter. So. Okay. Anything else? You can have my business card if you smile very nicely. So anyway, okay, that's all that I have. Thank you so much for sticking around. Okay.